You obviously were synonymous with the Bengals for a long, long time. And I remember when you left the Bengals, there was some sort of something. I don't remember the exacts of it. Then you end up with the Rams. Yeah, some sort of something. Yeah, it feels like there's teams that are getting in that position now. Obviously, not just the Bengals, who Trey Hendrickson is allowed to go look for a trade. Sam Hubbard just retired. We thought that might open up some money for Trey Hendrickson, but they tell him he can go seek a trade because they got T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, a lot of people they have to figure out over there. San Francisco 49ers seemingly have to deal with it every single year. Whenever you're talking about, we don't have to just talk about the Bengals, but obviously they're a part of this conversation as a whole. Whenever you have to pick and choose who you're giving money to and how much money you're giving to people, how uncomfortable does that actually get behind closed doors, do you think? That we don't talk about.
I think it's really uncomfortable. I think it's one of the things maybe the fan bases sometimes don't understand. This week isn't just about who's getting acquired or who's leaving and who we're cutting. There's a lot of emotions involved and a lot of nerves because you're hoping that a lot of these decisions are quality decisions you're making as a personnel group, and you're saying, hey, we feel like we want to move money this direction or we want to add money here to our team. And you look at the Cincinnati Bengals situation, which is a great one. Obviously Joe Burrow has been very outspoken about wanting T. Higgins and Jamar Chase back. And the Bengals have always done things financially a certain way. And so it's kind of one of those things like maybe, hey, listen, Joe, we're going to try to do this, but these are the people that are going to have to go. And there's going to be people that aren't going to be a part of this team if we're going to do it that way. So you look at Trey Hendrickson's situation, I think it's the Max Crosby deal that really probably sent this to this point, because now they go, wow, if that's the asking price, you probably need to go out there and see if there's another team that would offer you that and then give us some compensation to really make it worth our while to move on.
$106.5 million extension for Max Crosby, completely earned. We're not saying
he deserves every bit of it.
Every play this guy plays, just like Trey Hendrickson.
It's crazy, man.
I mean, it is. The engine is obviously absurd, but the impact on the game that a pass rusher has, especially for Trey Hendrickson, the pass sack king last year, and then last 3 years most sacks out of anybody, it's like, I assume somebody will be like, yep, we will make that play for Trey Hendrickson. And the Bengals are going to be back at a spot that they're always in, which is get talent, can't keep talent. Business always gets in the way because there's a lot of stats floating out there about paying Joey Burrow. And then obviously the Eagles pay Jalen Hurts. And somehow the Eagles are able to keep everybody. And the Bengals are very rarely ever able to keep anybody. So how do you view the situation as somebody that's been so close to it in the past?
Well, the issue is the Bengals are never going to, issue out lots of guarantees and contracts, and unfortunately, they've just continued to be way behind times in that spot, because it's like that's the part of the business now, and eventually, you may have had an old way of doing things, but if you don't ever change, you're going to always get left behind in these situations. Continuously, they've let big free agents leave. Now, it's not that every team hasn't done that, but then they've also not been able to replace them. You look how many draft picks they've spent on the defensive side of the football since they lost Jesse Bates and DJ Reader, and now possibly Trey Hendrickson, and they just haven't been able to find guys that match up to that standard of play. So if you can't pay them to stay, and you also don't draft their replacement, you're living in a world where we just keep spinning the circle, and you're going to keep putting yourself in this position where you're going to have to overpay to keep some talent. And right now, you look at it, you've gone this long with T. Higgins being upset with his contract. Jamar Chase obviously needs to get taken care of. Those are the things I just hate to see teams do, to continue to allow it to fester. Make a decision. Pay the guy, move on from the guy, but stop letting it just linger in the locker room. Because to me, that's what you really see start to have an effect. Like what the Cowboys did with CD Lamb and Dak last year. It just continues to fester your team, and it affects your locker room because you create a bad vibe every single day about who's going to get paid that's deserved the opportunity to get paid. You got to make those decisions and make a clean cut of what we're going to do, and let's move forward.
And your stars get jaded towards the organization. And once again, the Bengals aren't the only team that does this. Historically, though, they have been a team that's been in the spotlight of doing this because they get so many good players and then can't keep them. And it's like, have a guy right now. Are they going to be able to figure out the business to keep these talented gentlemen in Cincinnati? Whenever you provide a guarantee for somebody, ownership has to put that money up into a fund. So they actually have to have that money right now. You have to be able to put that in there. So that's obviously a question with the Brown family. Would they be willing to put that amount of money because the Bengals are their only business? It's crazy because there's other owners that like $106.5 million. Not that Mark Davis is this way, even though he sold to some funds, I think, some venture, 10% he sold. Yeah. There's some owners that can literally just $106.5 million just be like, yeah, fucking
whatever.
Yeah. we don't care. And then there's some ownerships that the team is all they got. And it's like fluidity of cash is not necessarily in abundance. I'll be excited to see how that kind of continues to work itself out. And you talk about taking care of guys early. J.J. Watt literally just said that yesterday. It's like, it's good for all parties to take care of somebody early. Saquon Barkley's deal. How about that shit? Just
awesome.
Right?
You talk about another one, just like Max Crosby. Like that's what you want to see. You want to see this relationship with organizations where when a guy plays to a certain standard and you go, hey, you know what? This is what we want to encourage. A guy comes in here, the character he plays with, the style he plays with, how he achieved. We're going to make sure these kind of guys get taken care of early. That also helps us make decisions down the road. And that's what I think is the issue, is sometimes the cat and mouse game of the team and the player and trying to figure out, all right, do we want to keep leveraging and holding off paying them? Like, the sooner you can make a commitment to guys, and that's really what the Eagles have done great. Hey, let's pick our 5, 6, 7 guys that we know without question the character they are and the football player they are. We're going to commit to them to move forward. And now that gives us the space to go, all right, when these other situations come up, can we make a move? Can we not? And that really is what, to me, separates what Howie Roseman's been able to do. Is not just these ghost years and these contracts people are talking about how they put them together, but he commits to guys that he knows, this is a guy that I'm going to want in my organization no matter what. And it's the same thing that's been the criticism of the Giants with letting Saquon leave. How do you let talented football players who are also great characters, awesome for your culture, ever walk out of your building? You know, to really validate what that number is that you say is too much is crazy to me, because you want good character people who are great football players. That's what you're in the business of acquiring. You don't let those people walk out of your building.
Yeah, and we watched it all unfold on that Hard Knocks offseason, and boy, that has all just come back completely the other way. And Mara, the owner, has to feel like a super genius.
Yeah.
He's probably, whenever he's going around conversation, have you seen Hard Knocks? I know ball.
I knew it.
I know ball. I told him, I tried to give him a hint. I tried to give him a tip, because remember it was said back in the day, just a few years back, that Mara was sick of telling his friends why his team sucks, which is why he invested a bunch of money. And then this whole situation happens, and Mara's like, I fucking know it. They don't let me.
The craziest comment, Pat, to that whole situation was when Sheen said that you don't pay a running back, 12 to 15 million, and have your $40 million quarterback hand the ball off to him. And I'm like, wait a minute, isn't 55 million what all the great quarterbacks are getting paid? So wouldn't you pay your quarterback less and then your running back more, and then that adds up to what the great quarterbacks are? Like, that isn't even, the math actually adds up to, that would be the equivalent of what those guys actually get paid, and that would be the dynamic if you have a quarterback for $40 million.
And you look at the
So
picture,
to me, it just never made any sense.
and you look at the picture right next to your head right now. It's like the Philadelphia Eagles, they paid a guy, a quarterback, and he did hand the ball off.
A lot.
They handed the ball off more than they threw the ball, and they're still A-okay with paying Jalen Hurts the amount of money that they're currently paying him. It's a wild time, and it's crazy how this all works, but, maybe the Bengals, maybe the Giants, maybe all these teams, they figure it out this offseason.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.